He had the most painful voice in rock, and nobody knew the pain was real. While the world listened and thought, what an incredible lyric, he was living every single word. 1990, Seattle. A young man steps on stage. He opens his mouth and blows the speakers. Somewhere in the crowd, a fan screams, "I need a beer!" That was Layne Staley at his peak, full of life, full of power, the most visceral voice rock had ever heard. And nobody, not even him, knew how the story would end. Layne Thomas Staley was born on August 22, 1967, in Kirkland, Washington. He was 7 years old when his parents divorced. His father disappeared, and Layne learned early that the things we love can leave without warning. Layne hated his middle name, Rutherford. He'd get angry whenever someone called him that. As a teenager, he legally changed it to Thomas, in honor of Motley Crue's drummer Tommy Lee. Yes, the future icon of grunge was a hair metal fan. Life isn't linear. By 9, he'd written in a school book that he wanted to be a singer. By 12, he played drums. But there was something inside him that wouldn't stop whispering what he was really meant to do. In 1984, 3 students needed a vocalist for a band called Sleaze. Layne was shy. He almost didn't show up to the audition. When he opened his mouth, the band's founder said, "The soul was there. We didn't know what we were looking for. We just found it." That's the Layne few people know, not the icon, the shy kid who almost missed his own chance. In 1987, he crossed paths with guitarist Jerry Cantrell. Shortly after, Mike Starr and Sean Kinney completed the lineup. Alice in Chains was born. The rise was fast. With Facelift in 1990 and Dirt in 1992, the entire world stopped to listen. Facelift, the album that introduced the world to something it had never heard before, a voice so raw, so physical, that it literally blew the speakers. Rooster was written by Cantrell for his father, a Vietnam War veteran. His dad's nickname was exactly that, Rooster. Cantrell described the song as the beginning of the healing process between my father and me for all the damage Vietnam caused. He wrote it alone one night, temporarily sleeping at Soundgarden's Chris Cornell's house because he had nowhere to live. Two of grunge's biggest names sharing a house because one of them was broke. Seattle was exactly that, a dysfunctional and brilliant family.
In chains.
Down in a Hole was written by Cantrell for his longtime girlfriend. He almost didn't bring it to the band, thought it was too soft. But when Lane sang it, critics said his performance sounded like a broken man searching for some kind of comfort. Ironic, because that's exactly what he was doing. In 1994, Lane formed Mad Season with Pearl Jam's Mike McCready. McCready invited Lane, hoping that playing with musicians in recovery would encourage him to stay sober. The band was born in a rehabilitation center, and the album they recorded, Above, is one of the most honest documents ever made about addiction.
To God to bring my sunny day.
In October 1996, Demry Lara Parrott, the great love of his life, died of an overdose. Those close to him say Lane never recovered from Demry's death. The man, already fighting his own demons, lost the only person who still connected him to the world. On April 10, 1996, Alice in Chains took the stage at the Brooklyn Academy of Music for MTV Unplugged. It was the band's first show in nearly 3 years. Lane was visibly thinner, very short pink hair, dark glasses hiding his eyes for most of the performance. Cantrell played the show sick, food poisoning from a hot dog he ate beforehand. Lane, on the other hand, was suffering from rapidly declining health due to drugs. A hot dog poisoning one, heroin destroying the other. And yet, the performance went down in history as one of the most powerful in acoustic rock of all time. 3 months later, on July 3, 1996, in Kansas City, opening for the Kiss tour, Lane gave his last show with Alice in Chains. That same night, he suffered an overdose and was rushed to the hospital. Nobody knew it was the end. But it was. In 1997, a 3-bedroom apartment in Seattle's University District was purchased under an anonymous trust. To keep Lane's name out of public records, There, almost completely alone, he disappeared from the world. Lane was addicted to video games, huge TV, 5 consoles, gaming from dawn to dusk. In the last known public photo, from Halloween 1998, he was wearing a Metal Gear Solid t-shirt. Shortly before his death, the band Taproot wanted Lane to sing on a new song. Producer Toby Wright reached out. Lane agreed and said, "Man, I'm going to be able to perform again." Wright was preparing to fly to Seattle when he received the news of Lane's death. He wanted to come back. Until the very end, he wanted to come back. In the days before his death, Lane believed Demery's ghost was visiting him. On April 4, 2002, he was watching TV with Mike Starr when he came across a show about communicating with the dead. He stared at it in silence for a long time. On April 4, 2002, Mike Starr spent the day with Lane. It was Starr's birthday, and Lane, despite everything, was there. Lane was in bad shape, but refused any help. The two argued. Starr left. And Lane called after him. "Not like this. Don't go like this." Those were the last known words of Lane Staley. On April 19th, Lane's accountants noticed no bank activity had occurred in 2 weeks. Police broke down the door. There, illuminated by the light of the television, was Lane. He was 34 years old. He weighed 86 pounds. He had been dead for 2 weeks. In his last known interview, months before, Lane had said, "I know I'm near death. I've been using crack and heroin for years. I never wanted my life to end this way." He knew, and nobody made it in time.
My son is Lane Staley, the lead singer of the Alice in Chains band, and he passed away over 7 years ago. Mike was the last person to see and be with Lane. And I'm not here just to support Mike, but I'm also here to support Gail. And I want this group to get it, that when you lose your addict, the hope is over. It is final. Death is final. And this is not fun or funny. This is so serious because when you're dead, and you're gone, and you'll never be here again, and you'll never hug your mom, and you're never going to see your friends, and it's over. And you're either in the ground deteriorating or you're in a box of dust like I have my son now. When we found him, I walked into the dining area of his home. And I walked over, asked the police if I could move things off the couch. And they said, yes, I could. And I sat down by Lane and I talked with him. And I told him, I'm so sorry it turned out like this, because I always believed, because he was smart and he had the money and he had the time and he knew he'd been in treatment 13 times. He'd been in the emergency 3 times. He died 3 times. I knew he had what it took. And still it took him out. And I want you who are here for treatment to do everything you can to cooperate with the center and their protocol, because you can live, and you can live a long life. You don't have to live a fantastic, incredible celebrity life. You want a boring, predictable life, and you cannot believe how rich that is until you're in it. I don't want to see anybody go through this because it's horrible, and you never get to hug your child again.
Thank you, Nancy.
To fully understand Lane Staley, you need to understand Jerry Cantrell. 3 weeks after his mother's death, in April 1987, Cantrell went to a show at the Tacoma Little Theater. He had no home, no money. He was throwing boxes of frozen fish in a warehouse just to pay rent. And then he heard a voice. It was Lane Staley. Impressed, Cantrell was introduced to Lane at a party shortly after. With nowhere to live, Lane invited him to share the 24-hour rehearsal studio where he was staying, the Music Bank. There, sleeping on the floor of a rehearsal room, the greatest partnership in grunge was born. Two guys with nothing, one with a guitar, the other with a voice. And together, they created something the world will never forget. Cantrell never wanted to be a singer. When you have a guy like Lane Staley in the band, he said, you don't want to compete with him. It was Lane who changed that. Cantrell recalls that Lane came to him one day and said, "No offense, but these lyrics are very personal. I think you should sing them." Cantrell replied, "You're better than me." And Lane said, "You'll be fine. We gave each other confidence." Think about that for a second. The man with the most powerful voice in rock convinced the guitarist to sing, not out of ego, not out of laziness, but because he knew those lyrics needed the voice of the person who lived them. Cantrell later said, "When we sang together, the two voices made one bigger voice. Sometimes you know exactly when it's him and when it's me, but a lot of times you just can't tell. We created something." That fusion of voices is the sound of Alice in Chains, not one, both. When Lane started sinking into addiction, Cantrell stayed. While the world waited for new material, the band canceled tours, turned down Woodstock 94, turned down opening for Metallica. Cantrell held everything together behind the scenes, while his best friend disappeared into a Seattle apartment. Back in 1988, the two got tattoos together. The Brothers Tattoo. Cantrell with a screaming skull on his right shoulder, Lane with a smiling skull on his left. Cantrell said, "The coolest part was doing it together with Lane. They were connected, and obviously, so were we. Brothers in ink, brothers in life." Cantrell never spoke badly about Lane publicly, never abandoned him, never stopped acknowledging what he meant. In 2024, in an interview, Cantrell said simply, "I miss him every day of my life." 5 words, 22 years later, and they still hurt. When Lane died, Cantrell adopted his Siamese cat named Sadie. She lived with him for years and died on the same night Alice in Chains performed in Seattle in 2010. Even the cat waited. Alice in Chains wasn't made by one genius. It was made by 2. One wrote the lyrics, the other gave them the voice they deserved. One held the band together, the other held the pain. And when one was gone, the other kept going. Not because it was easy, but because it was the only way to honor what they built together. The album Black Gives Way to Blue, the first record without Lane, has a title track written and sung by Cantrell with Elton John on piano as a tribute to his friend. Curiously, the first concert Lane ever attended as a child was an Elton John show. Cantrell knew that and chose that detail to say goodbye. This is the legacy of Layne Staley. Not just the voice, not just the pain, but the generosity of a man who, even while sinking, still found the strength to tell his best friend, "You'll be fine." This documentary was built on research, biographical references, and a deep respect for Layne Staley's legacy. Every fact presented here has a source behind it. Every word was chosen carefully. Because Layne deserved more than just another article listing the dates of his rise and fall. He deserved to be understood. If this video moved you, if you learned something you didn't know, or if you simply felt what it means to lose someone with that much to give, share it. Someone out there needs to hear this story. I'm at Music Ludo, and this is just the beginning.